You are losing power because you are gripping too tightly. You are draining your energy by trying to control what was never yours to control. And today, that ends. This audiobook will teach you the most counterintuitive advantage you will ever develop, the power of detachment. When you detach, you stop chasing. When you detach, you stop fearing. When you detach, you finally see clearly. This is how you win, by letting go. And by the end of this audiobook, you will never cling, beg, or force anything again. Chapter 1. Stop clinging to what's holding you back. You're here because something in your life is gripping you. Or more accurately, you're gripping it too tightly, for too long, and it's costing you more than you realize. This is the first truth you must accept if you want to master detachment. You cannot rise while you're clinging to what's pulling you down. You have a choice. You always have a choice. But attachment blinds you to that choice. Attachment convinces you that holding on is safer than letting go. Attachment whispers, if you release this, you'll lose everything. But the reality is simple. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Say it again. Let it land. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Because peace is not a luxury. Peace is not a bonus. Peace is not something you earn after suffering long enough. Peace is the foundation of clarity. Peace is a foundation of strength. Peace is a foundation of every good decision you will ever make. And when you cling to the wrong thing, the wrong person, the wrong job, the wrong identity, you destroy your peace. You drain your energy. You shrink your potential. Let's break this down. The cost of clinging. Clinging is emotional debt. You pay interest every day. You pay with stress. You pay with anxiety. You pay with confusion. You pay with wasted time. And the worst part? You don't even notice the cost until you're empty. Attachment creates emotional blindness. You stop seeing the situation for what it is. You only see what you want it to be. You only see what you're afraid to lose. You only see the fantasy you build around it. That's the trap. That's the weight. That's the thing holding you back. Think about the relationship you stayed in long after it stopped growing. Think about the job you kept because it felt safe, even though it drained you. Think about the goal you chased because you didn't want to disappoint anyone, even though it wasn't your dream anymore. You weren't staying because it was right. You were staying because you were attached. You were staying because you were afraid. You were staying because you forgot something essential. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to walk away. You don't need permission to change direction. You don't need permission to choose yourself. You have a choice, and that's the key. The moment you let go, you see clearly. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is not quitting. Letting go is not failure. Letting go is clarity. Letting go is strength. Letting go is a discipline to stop feeding what drains you. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. It's not about guilt. It's about alignment. It's not about pleasing others. It's about protecting your peace. Because remember, if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. When you release what's weighing you down, something powerful happens. Your mind opens. Your energy returns. Your decisions sharpen. You create mental space. Instantly. Think about the last time you finally ended something that had been stressing you for months. A relationship, a job, a commitment you never wanted in the first place. The moment you let go, what happened? You breathed again. You slept again. You thought clearly again. That's not an accident. That's the power of detachment. HIG pressure. Decisions require space. Let's talk about high-stakes moments. Moments where clarity matters. Moments where hesitation costs you. Imagine a firefighter entering a burning building. Imagine a surgeon making a split-second decision. Imagine a pilot navigating turbulence. None of them can afford emotional clutter. None of them can afford attachment to the wrong thing. None of them can cling to fear, ego, or what if. They need space. They need clarity. They need detachment. And so do you. You cannot make strong decisions while clinging to weak attachments. You cannot move forward while gripping the past. You cannot grow while holding on to what hurts you. You have a choice. And that's the key. What you must do now. Let's get practical. Let's get real. Let's talk about what you must do. Today. 1. Identify the thing you're clinging to. Say it out loud. Write it down. Name it. Because what you don't name, you can't release. 2. Ask the only question that matters. Does this cost my peace? If the answer is yes, then you already know the truth. You already know the next step. You already know the price is too high. Because again, if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. 3. Create distance, even 1 inch. You don't have to cut the rope all at once. You just need to loosen your grip. 1 inch of distance creates 1 inch of clarity. 1 inch of clarity creates 1 inch of strength. And strength compounds. 4. Replace attachment with discipline. Attachment says, I need this. Discipline says, I choose what serves me. Attachment says, I can't let go. Discipline says, I refuse to carry what breaks me. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. 5. Reclaim your mental space. When you let go, you create room for better decisions, better relationships, better opportunities, better versions of yourself. You cannot receive what's meant for you while gripping what's not. The truth you must accept. You're not stuck. You're attached. And attachment is a choice. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And the moment you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, discipline over fear, everything changes. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is winning differently. Letting go is winning wisely. Letting go is winning without destroying yourself in the process. Because again and again and again, if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. This is a foundation of detachment. This is a beginning of your transformation. This is a first step toward power. And now that you understand the cost of clinging, it's time to understand the illusion that keeps you trapped. You mastered the weight of attachment. Now, let's expose the lie that keeps you gripping what hurts you. Chapter 2. Control is an illusion. You think you're in control. You think if you plan enough, worry enough, push enough, you can force life to obey you. But deep down, you already know the truth. Control is an illusion. You don't control outcomes. You don't control people. You don't control timing. You don't control the world around you. You control one thing, and one thing only, your discipline. That's the key. It's not about controlling everything. It's about controlling yourself. But attachment tricks you. Attachment convinces you that if you just hold on tighter, you'll finally feel safe. You'll finally feel certain. You'll finally feel in command. You won't, because the tighter you grip, the more life slips through your fingers. You have a choice. You can keep trying to control what you can't, or you can master what you can. The lie of control. Let's expose the lie. The lie says, if I don't manage everything, everything will fall apart. If I don't fix it, no one will. If I don't hold on, I'll lose everything. But look at your life. Look at the stress. Look at the exhaustion. Look at the anxiety that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Has gripping harder ever made you happier? Has micromanaging ever made you stronger? Has forcing outcomes ever brought you peace? No, because peace doesn't come from control. Peace comes from clarity. Peace comes from discipline. Peace comes from detachment. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need the world to bend to your will. You need to stop trying to control what was never yours. Influence versus control. There's a difference between influence and control. Influence is power. Control is fear. Influence says, I'll show up with discipline. Control says, I'll force the outcome. Influence says, I'll give my best. Control says, my best isn't enough unless I manipulate everything. Influence is grounded. Control is desperate. You have a choice. You can live from power or you can live from fear. Think about the leader who micromanages every detail. They don't do it because they're strong. They do it because they're terrified. Terrified of failure. Terrified of judgment. Terrified of losing control. But here's the truth. The need for control is the clearest sign of fear. And fear is the enemy of detachment. REL world examples of control failing. Let's look at real life. Not theory. Not philosophy. Reality. The micromanaging boss. They hover. They nitpick. They correct every detail. They think they're preventing mistakes. But what actually happens? Their team shuts down. Creativity dies. Morale collapses. The boss loses the very control they were trying to maintain. Why? Because control destroys trust. And without trust, nothing works. The anxious parent. They try to control every move their child makes, every friend, every decision, every risk. They think they're protecting them. But what actually happens? The child becomes fearful, resentful, or rebellious. The parent loses influence, the one thing they actually had. Why? Because control suffocates growth. The overthinker. They try to control every outcome in their mind, every scenario, every possibility. They think they're preparing. But what actually happens? They freeze. They hesitate. They miss opportunities. Why? Because control kills action. You have a choice. You can keep trying to control everything. Or you can finally take control of yourself. The freedom of acceptance. Here's the paradox. The moment you accept that you're not in control, you become powerful. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is clarity. Acceptance is strength. Acceptance is a foundation of discipline. When you stop trying to control everything, you free your mind. You free your energy. You free your focus. You stop wasting time on what you can't change. And you start investing time in what you can. That's the key. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's about controlling your effort, your habits, your reactions, your standards, your discipline. You don't control the world, but you control how you show up in it. The discipline of detachment. Detachment is not passive. Detachment is not lazy. Detachment is not whatever happens, happens. Detachment is disciplined. Detachment is intentional. Detachment is strategic. Detachment says, I will give everything I have, but I will not cling to the outcome. I will act with strength, not desperation. I will move with clarity, not fear. You have a choice. You can cling to control, or you can choose discipline. Because it's not about controlling life. It's about controlling your response to life. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. Let's talk about what you must do today. 1. Identify what you're trying to control. A person, a situation, a timeline, a result. Name it, because what you don't name, you can't release. 2. Ask the real question. Is this mind control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, take disciplined action. 3. Replace control with influence. Influence through consistency. Influence through clarity. Influence through calm. Influence through discipline. 4. Release the outcome. You don't control how people respond. You don't control how life unfolds. You don't control timing. You control your effort. You control your standards. You control your discipline. 5. Practice detachment in real time. When you feel yourself gripping, loosen. When you feel yourself forcing, pause. When you feel yourself spiraling, breathe. When you feel yourself clinging, step back. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. The truth you must accept. Control is an illusion, but discipline is real. Clarity is real. Detachment is real. Peace is real. And when you stop trying to control everything, you finally gain control of the only thing that matters, yourself. You master the illusion of control. Now it's time to understand the truth about emotional discipline. Chapter 3. Detachment is not indifference. Most people misunderstand detachment. They hear the word and immediately think of coldness, distance, apathy, a lack of care. But that's not detachment. That's avoidance. That's emotional shutdown. That's fear pretending to be strength. Detachment is something entirely different. Detachment is emotional discipline. Detachment is clarity. Detachment is the ability to stay steady while the world around you shakes. You have a choice. You can react to everything, or you can respond to what matters. That's the key. Detachment is presence without panic. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overcaring. It means you stop letting your emotions hijack your judgment. It means you stop letting fear, insecurity, and desperation make decisions for you. Detachment is presence without panic. Detachment is love without losing yourself. Detachment is ambition without obsession. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their approval to stay grounded. You don't need their validation to stay focused. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. The myth of caring less. People say, just care less. But that's not the solution. Caring less makes you smaller. Caring less makes you weaker. Caring less makes you disconnected from your own life. The goal is not to care less. The goal is to care correctly. Care with intention. Care with boundaries. Care with clarity. Care with discipline. It's not about caring less. It's about caring without collapsing. That's detachment. The elite understand detachment. Look at the people who perform at the highest levels. Elite athletes, surgeons, negotiators, pilots, crisis responders. They care deeply about the outcome, but they don't cling to it. They don't panic. They don't spiral. They don't let emotion override execution. They stay calm. They stay focused. They stay detached because they know something most people never learn. Emotional chaos destroys performance. When you're attached, you're reactive. When you're reactive, you're sloppy. When you're sloppy, you lose. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is mastery. REL World examples of detachment in action. Let's make this real. Let's make this practical. Let's show you what detachment actually looks like. 1. The athlete in the final seconds. They're not thinking about the crowd. They're not thinking about the critics. They're not thinking about the pressure. They're thinking about the next move, the next breath, the next action. That's detachment, not indifference. Focus. 2. The surgeon in the operating room. They're not thinking about fear. They're not thinking about failure. They're not thinking about what could go wrong. They're thinking about precision. They're thinking about process. They're thinking about execution. That's detachment, not coldness, clarity. 3. The negotiator at the table. They're not begging. They're not chasing. They're not desperate. They're calm. They're steady. They're willing to walk away. That's detachment, not apathy, leverage. You have a choice. You can live emotionally reactive, or you can live emotionally disciplined. Why attachment makes you weak? Attachment is emotional gravity. It pulls you down. It slows you. It distorts your judgment. When you're attached, you overreact. You overthink. You overinvest. You overextend. You lose yourself in the outcome. You lose yourself in the person. You lose yourself in the fear of losing. Attachment makes you fragile. Detachment makes you strong. Because detachment gives you something attachment never will: options. When you're attached, you cling. When you're detached, you choose. And you always have a choice. Detachment is emotional strength. Let's be clear. Detachment is not shutting down. Detachment is not pretending you don't care. Detachment is not building walls. Detachment is emotional strength. Detachment is emotional intelligence. Detachment is emotional maturity. It's the ability to feel without drowning, to care without clinging, to love without losing yourself, to commit without collapsing. It's not about indifference. It's about discipline. That's the key. What detachment looks like in your life. Let's bring this into your world, your relationships, your goals, your work, your identity. In relationships, detachment means you show up fully, but you don't beg. You love deeply, but you don't lose yourself. You give effort, but you don't sacrifice your peace. In your career, detachment means you pursue excellence, but you don't obsess. You take risks, but you don't panic. You adapt, but you don't crumble. In your goals, detachment means you commit to the process, not the fantasy. You focus on discipline, not perfection. You measure progress, not approval. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need their validation to evolve. You don't need their applause to stay disciplined. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. Let's talk about what you must do today. 1. Identify where you confuse detachment with indifference. Where do you shut down instead of staying steady? Where do you withdraw instead of staying present? Where do you avoid instead of acting with clarity? 2. Replace emotional reactivity with emotional discipline. Pause before reacting. Breathe before responding. Think before speaking. Act before spiraling. 3. Stay connected but not consumed. Care deeply. Show up fully, but hold lightly. 4. Practice calm in moments of pressure. When emotions rise, lower your voice. When fear spikes, slow your breath. When chaos hits, anchor your mind. 5. Remind yourself daily. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is strength. That's the key. The truth you must accept. You don't have to shut down to protect yourself. You don't have to numb yourself to stay safe. You don't have to pretend you don't care. You just have to stop clinging. You just have to stop reacting. You just have to stop letting emotion run your life. Detachment is not coldness. Detachment is control. Detachment is clarity. Detachment is power. And now that you understand what detachment truly is, it's time to learn how to apply it to the one thing that sabotages more dreams than anything else. You mastered emotional discipline. Now, let's master the foundation of consistent success. Chapter 4. Let go of the outcome. Master the process. You want results. You want progress. You want the breakthrough, the transformation, the win. But here's the truth you've avoided for years. You don't control the outcome. You control the process. That's the key. And until you understand this, you will keep sabotaging yourself. You have a choice. You can obsess over results you can't control, or you can master the actions you can control. Most people choose obsession. Most people choose anxiety. Most people choose fear disguised as ambition. But not you. Not anymore. The outcome is a mirror, not a target. The outcome is not something you chase. The outcome is something that reflects your discipline, your habits, your consistency, your decisions. The outcome is a mirror. It shows you who you are. It shows you what you practice. It shows you what you tolerated. But you treat the outcome like a target you can force into place. You treat it like something you can grab with your bare hands. You treat it like something you can bend to your will. You can't. And the harder you try, the more frustrated you become. You don't need their permission to change your process. You don't need their approval to improve your discipline. You don't need their validation to stay consistent. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. Outcome obsession creates anxiety. Let's talk about what happens when you cling to the outcome. You overthink. You panic. You hesitate. You compare yourself to everyone else. You judge yourself too early. You quit too soon. Outcome obsession kills momentum. Outcome obsession kills creativity. Outcome obsession kills confidence. Because when you're obsessed with the result, you stop focusing on the work. You stop focusing on the reps. You stop focusing on the daily actions that actually create success. You start chasing shortcuts. You start chasing validation. You start chasing perfection. And perfection is just fear wearing a mask. It's not about perfection. It's about discipline. The process is where you become who you need to be. The process is not glamorous. The process is not exciting. The process is not dramatic. The process is repetition. The process is consistency. The process is showing up when you don't feel like it. The process is where you build the identity that produces the outcome. You want to be confident, then practice confidence. You want to be disciplined, then practice discipline. You want to be successful, then practice the habits that create success. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. And habits are built in the process, not the outcome. You have a choice. You can chase the fantasy, or you can build the foundation. REL world examples of process over outcome. Let's make this real. 1. The athlete training alone. No cameras, no applause, no scoreboard, just repetition, just discipline, just the process. The outcome, the win, is earned long before the game begins. 2. The entrepreneur building in silence. No investors watching, no customers cheering, no guarantees, just trial, just error, just the process. The outcome, the breakthrough, is a byproduct of consistency. 3. The artist practicing their craft. No audience, no praise, no spotlight, just practice, just refinement, just the process. The outcome, the masterpiece, is a result of thousands of unseen hours. The world celebrates the outcome, but the world never sees the process. You have a choice. You can chase applause, or you can chase mastery. Why letting go of the outcome makes you stronger. When you let go of the outcome, something powerful happens. You stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You stop fearing failure. You start acting. You start experimenting. You start improving. Because the outcome no longer defines you. The process does. And the process is something you can control every single day. Letting go of the outcome doesn't make you passive. It makes you unstoppable. Because you're no longer paralyzed by fear. You're no longer distracted by comparison. You're no longer controlled by external results. You become consistent. You become grounded. You become disciplined. That's the key. The discipline of daily execution. Let's talk about what you must do. Today, 1. Define the process you can control. Your habits, your routines, your standards, your effort, your preparation. These are yours. These are controllable. These are the foundation. 2. Set outcome goals, but don't cling to them. Use them as direction, not identity. Use them as guidance, not pressure. Use them as inspiration, not obsession. 3. Track actions, not results. Did you show up? Did you execute? Did you practice? Did you improve? These are the real metrics. 4. Build consistency, not intensity. Anyone can be intense for a day. Few can be consistent for a year. Consistency wins. Consistency compounds. Consistency transforms. 5. Release the timeline. You don't control when the breakthrough happens. You don't control when the opportunity arrives. You don't control when the results show up. You control the work. You control the discipline. You control the process. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. The truth you must accept. You've been gripping the outcome too tightly. You've been chasing results instead of building habits. You've been trying to force success instead of becoming the person who naturally creates it. Letting go of the outcome is not giving up. Letting go of the outcome is leveling up. Letting go of the outcome is choosing mastery over anxiety. Letting go of the outcome is choosing discipline over desperation. Because the outcome is a reflection, not a reward. And the process is the only thing you can control. You mastered the process of letting go. Now it's time to confront the enemy that keeps you attached to the wrong things. Chapter 5. Your ego is the enemy of detachment. Your ego is loud. Your ego is needy. Your ego is fragile. And as long as your ego is in control, you are not. This is a chapter most people resist. Because nobody wants to admit their ego is running their life. Nobody wants to admit they're attached to being right, being praised, being admired, being validated. But if you want attachment, if you want clarity, if you want peace, you must confront the truth. Your ego is the enemy of detachment. You have a choice. You can protect your ego, or you can protect your peace. But you cannot do both. That's the key. The ego needs attachment to survive. Your ego feeds on attachment. It needs something to cling to. A title, a relationship, a reputation, a narrative, a fantasy of who you think you are. Your ego whispers, don't let go, don't walk away, don't change, don't admit you were wrong. Your ego convinces you that letting go is losing. But the truth is simple. Letting go is liberation. Clinging is ego. Your ego wants control. Your ego wants certainty. Your ego wants to be the hero of every story. But detachment requires humility. Detachment requires honesty. Detachment requires the courage to say, this no longer serves me. You don't need their permission to evolve. You don't need their approval to change direction. You don't need their validation to release what's holding you back. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. The ego makes you blind. Your ego blinds you to reality. It blinds you to red flags. It blinds you to your own patterns. It blinds you to the truth staring you in the face. Think about the relationship you stayed in because your ego didn't want to admit it failed. Think about the job you kept because your ego didn't want to start over. Think about the argument you dragged out because your ego refused to apologize. Your ego wasn't protecting you. Your ego was trapping you. Attachment is emotional blindness. An ego is the hand covering your eyes. You have a choice. You can keep pretending, or you can finally see clearly. The ego fears detachment. Your ego fears detachment because detachment exposes the truth. Detachment forces you to confront who you are without the labels, without the applause, without the external identity you built. Your ego says, I am my achievements. I am my status. I am my relationships. I am my image. But detachment says, you are not what you cling to. You are not what you fear losing. You're not defined by external outcomes. It's not about image. It's about integrity. It's not about validation. It's about discipline. It's not about being right. It's about being real. That's the key. REL World examples of ego sabotage. Let's make this real. Let's make this practical. Let's show you how ego destroys detachment. 1. The leader who can't step back. They refuse to delegate. They refuse to listen. They refuse to admit mistakes. Their ego convinces them they must control everything. But what happens? Their team collapses. Their relationships fracture. Their influence disappears. Ego destroys leadership. 2. The person who can't walk away. They stay in toxic relationships. They stay in draining friendships. They stay in situations that break them. Why? Because their ego says, I can fix this. I can save this. I can make this work. But detachment says, this is not mine to carry. Ego destroys peace. 3. The dreamer who never executes. They talk big. They fantasize. They imagine success. But they never take action. Why? Because their ego fears failure more than it desires growth. Ego destroys progress. You have a choice. You can protect your ego, or you can protect your future. The power of humility. Humility is not weakness. Humility is not self-doubt. Humility is not shrinking. Humility is clarity. Humility is strength. Humility is the ability to say, I don't know yet, but I'm willing to learn. Humility is the antidote to ego. Humility is the foundation of detachment, because humility allows you to release what no longer serves you. Humility allows you to admit when something isn't working. Humility allows you to walk away without feeling like you failed. You don't need their permission to be humble. You don't need their approval to grow. You don't need their validation to evolve. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. Detachment requires ego death. If you want attachment, you must let your ego die, not your confidence, not your ambition, not your identity. Your ego, the part of you that clings, the part of you that fears judgment, the part of you that needs to be right, the part of you that refuses to let go. Ego death is not destruction. Ego death is liberation. Ego death is a moment you stop living for appearances and start living for truth. It's not about being admired. It's about being aligned. It's not about being impressive. It's about being intentional. It's not about being right. It's about being real. That's the key. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. Let's talk about what you must do today. 1. Identify where your ego is gripping too tightly. Where are you refusing to let go? Where are you pretending? Where are you performing instead of living? 2. Admit the truth privately or publicly. Say it out loud. Write it down. Acknowledge it. Honesty breaks ego. Honesty creates clarity. Honesty creates detachment. 3. Choose humility over image. Ask for help. Admit mistakes. Start over if needed. 4. Release the need to be right. Being right is ego. Being aligned is power. 5. Practice letting go in small ways. Let go of the last word. Let go of the need to impress. Let go of the need to control how others see you. You have a choice, and that choice is your strength. The truth you must accept. Your ego is not your protector. Your ego is your prison. Your ego is the reason you cling. Your ego is the reason you fear. Your ego is the reason you stay stuck. Detachment requires humility. Detachment requires honesty. Detachment requires the courage to release the identity that no longer fits you. You mastered the ego. Now it's time to master your emotional load. Chapter 6, Emotional Minimalism. Carry less, feel more. You're carrying too much. Not physically, emotionally. You're overloaded with expectations, obligations, assumptions, fears, and stories that were never yours to hold. And the weight is crushing your clarity. This is a truth you've avoided. You don't need more strength. You need less emotional clutter. That's emotional minimalism. Not numbness. Not detachment from life. But detachment from the unnecessary. You have a choice. You can keep carrying everything. Or you can carry only what matters. That's the key. You're overloaded, not overwhelmed. Most people think they're overwhelmed. But they're not. They're overloaded. Overloaded with other people's expectations. Overloaded with imaginary obligations. Overloaded with emotional noise that drowns out their own voice. You're not weak. You're weighed down. An emotional weight is invisible until it breaks you. Think about it. You're carrying guilt that isn't yours. You're carrying pressure that no one asked you to hold. You're carrying responsibilities that drain you instead of grow you. You don't need their permission to put the weight down. You don't need their approval to lighten your load. You don't need their validation to choose peace. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. Emotional minimalism is not emotional coldness. Let's be clear, emotional minimalism is not shutting down. It's not becoming distant. It's not pretending you don't care. Emotional minimalism is clarity. Emotional minimalism is discipline. Emotional minimalism is choosing what deserves your emotional energy and what doesn't. It's not about feeling less. It's about feeling better. It's not about caring less. It's about caring intentionally. It's not about avoiding emotions. It's about avoiding emotional clutter. That's the key. The cost of carrying too much. When you carry too much emotionally, you lose your ability to think clearly. You lose your ability to act decisively. You lose your ability to stay grounded. You become reactive. You become drained. You become scattered. Because emotional clutter steals your focus. It steals your peace. It steals your power. And remember the rule. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. You're paying too much. You're paying with your energy. You're paying with your time. You're paying with your mental clarity. You have a choice. You can keep paying, or you can stop carrying what isn't yours. REL World examples of emotional clutter. Let's make this real. 1. The people pleaser. They say yes to everything. They carry everyone's expectations. They absorb everyone's emotions. They think they're being kind. But what actually happens? They burn out. They resent others. They lose themselves. 2. The overthinker. They replay conversations. They analyze every detail. They imagine every worst-case scenario. They think they're being prepared. But what actually happens? They freeze. They spiral. They lose clarity. 3. The perfectionist. They carry impossible standards. They carry fear of judgment. They carry the belief that nothing they do is enough. They think they're being responsible. But what actually happens? They procrastinate. They self-sabotage. They collapse under pressure. These are not personality traits. These are symptoms of emotional overload. You have a choice. You can keep carrying the weight, or you can put it down. The power of carrying less. When you carry less emotionally, something powerful happens. You think clearly. You act decisively. You feel deeply without drowning. You stop reacting to everything. You stop absorbing everyone's emotions. You stop letting the world dictate your internal state. You become grounded. You become calm. You become intentional. Because emotional minimalism creates space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to choose. You don't need their permission to create that space. You don't need their approval to protect your peace. You don't need their validation to carry less. You have a choice, and that choice is your strength. What you must let go of. Let's get specific. Let's talk about what you must release. 1. Let go of unnecessary obligations. You don't have to attend every event. You don't have to solve every problem. You don't have to carry every burden. 2. Let go of emotional debt. Stop apologizing for things that weren't your fault. Stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. Stop carrying shame that doesn't belong to you. 3. Let go of imagined expectations. Most of the pressure you feel is self-created. Most of the standards you chase are illusions. Most of the judgment you fear is in your head. 4. Let go of other people's emotions. You can care without absorbing. You can support without sacrificing. You can love without losing yourself. 5. Let go of the stories that drain you. I have to be perfect. I can't disappoint anyone. I must always be strong. These stories are heavy. These stories are lies. These stories are optional. You have a choice. And that choice is your liberation. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. 1. Identify the emotional clutter. Write it down. Name it. Expose it. 2. Ask the essential question. Does this deserve my emotional energy? If the answer is no, release it. 3. Create emotional boundaries. Say no without guilt. Step back without apology. Protect your peace without explanation. 4. Simplify your emotional life. Fewer obligations. Fewer expectations. Fewer unnecessary battles. 5. Practice emotional stillness. Pause before reacting. Breathe before responding. Think before absorbing. You don't need their permission to carry less. You don't need their approval to protect your peace. You don't need their validation to choose clarity. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. The truth you must accept. You're not meant to carry everything. You're not meant to absorb everything. You're not meant to hold the emotional weight of the world. Emotional minimalism is not selfish. Emotional minimalism is survival. Emotional minimalism is strength. When you carry less, you feel more. When you carry less, you see more. When you carry less, you become more. You mastered emotional minimalism. Now it's time to master the leverage that comes from true independence. Chapter 7. The Power of Walking Away. There is a moment in every person's life when staying becomes more dangerous than leaving. A moment when holding on costs more than letting go. A moment when the only path to power is the path you've been avoiding. That moment is now. Because this chapter is about the skill most people never develop. The power of walking away. You have a choice. You can cling to what drains you, or you can walk away and reclaim your strength. That's the key. Walking away is not weakness. Most people think walking away is quitting. They think it's failure. They think it's giving up. But here's the truth. Walking away is a strategy. Walking away is leverage. Walking away is power. Weakness is staying in situations that break you. Weakness is clinging to people who don't value you. Weakness is tolerating what destroys your peace. Walking away is not weakness. Walking away is wisdom. You don't need their permission to leave. You don't need their approval to choose yourself. You don't need their validation to protect your peace. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. Why walking away is so powerful. Walking away shifts the balance. It changes the dynamic. It forces clarity. Because when you're willing to walk away, you cannot be controlled. You cannot be manipulated. You cannot be guilt-tripped, pressured, or pushed into anything that violates your standards. Walking away says, I choose myself. I choose my peace. I choose my future. And that terrifies the people who benefited from your attachment. Walking away is not about punishing others. Walking away is about protecting yourself. That's the key. Attachment makes you easy to control. Let's be honest. When you're attached, you tolerate too much. You accept too little. You shrink your standards. You silence your voice. Attachment makes you predictable. Attachment makes you compliant. Attachment makes you easy to manipulate. People can sense when you're afraid to lose them. Employers can sense when you're afraid to leave. Opportunities can sense when you're desperate. And desperation destroys leverage. You have a choice. You can cling, or you can walk away. Real world examples of walking away. Let's make this real. Let's make this practical. 1. The job that drains you. You stay because it's familiar. You stay because it's safe. You stay because you fear starting over. But the moment you walk away, your confidence returns, your energy returns, your clarity returns, because you stop trading your peace for a paycheck. 2. The relationship that no longer grows. You stay because of history. You stay because of comfort. You stay because you fear being alone. But the moment you walk away, you rediscover your identity. You rediscover your standards. You rediscover your strength. Because you stop confusing attachment with love. 3. The goal that isn't yours anymore. You chase it because you once wanted it. You chase it because others expect it. You chase it because your ego is attached to it. But the moment you walk away, you create space for a new dream, a new direction, a new version of yourself. Because you stop clinging to an outdated identity. Walking away is not losing. Walking away is choosing. The psychology of walking away. Walking away works because it resets your internal state. It breaks the emotional spell. It cuts the cord of attachment. When you walk away, you reclaim 3 things. 1. Your autonomy. You stop letting others dictate your choices. You stop letting fear dictate your behavior. You stop letting attachment dictate your identity. 2. Your standards. You stop accepting the bare minimum. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop settling for less than you deserve. 3. Your power. You stop reacting. You stop chasing. You stop clinging. You start choosing. You start leading. You start living intentionally. You have a choice. And that choice is your strength. The fear of walking away. Let's talk about the fear. Because fear is the only thing keeping you stuck. Fear of being alone. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of regret. Fear of judgment. Fear of starting over. But here's the truth. Staying in the wrong place guarantees regret. Walking away only risks it. Fear is not a reason to stay. Fear is a signal to move. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. It's about choosing long-term peace over short-term comfort. That's the key. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. Let's talk about what you must do today. 1. Identify what you're afraid to walk away from. A relationship, a job, a habit, a belief, a version of yourself. Name it, because what you don't name, you can't release. 2. Ask the essential question. Does staying cost me my peace? If the answer is yes, you already know what you must do. 3. Create emotional distance first. You don't have to leave instantly. You just have to loosen your grip. 1 inch of distance creates 1 inch of clarity. 4. Rebuild your standards. Write them down. Define them. Commit to them. Standards make walking away easier. Standards make decisions clearer. Standards make your life simpler. 5. Practice walking away in small ways. Walk away from arguments that go nowhere. Walk away from people who drain you. Walk away from habits that weaken you. Every small walk away builds a muscle for the big one. You have a choice. And that choice is your liberation. The truth you must accept. Walking away is not abandonment. Walking away is alignment. Walking away is not rejection. Walking away is redirection. Walking away is not loss. Walking away is leverage. When you walk away, you reclaim your power. When you walk away, you reclaim your peace. When you walk away, you reclaim your identity. You master the power of walking away. Now it's time to learn how to stay compassionate without becoming attached. Chapter 8. Detach from people, not humanity. You've been told that detachment means isolation. You've been told that detachment means shutting people out. You've been told that detachment means becoming cold, distant, unreachable. But that's not detachment. That's avoidance. That's fear pretending to be strength. Detachment is not about disconnecting from humanity. Detachment is about disconnecting from unhealthy attachment. You have a choice. You can detach from people, or you can detach from the need for people. And that's the key. Detachment is not disconnection. Let's make something clear. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. Detachment does not mean you stop loving. Detachment does not mean you stop showing up. Detachment means you stop depending on others for your identity. Detachment means you stop letting other people's emotions dictate your emotions. Detachment means you stop giving away your power to anyone who demands it. You don't need their permission to stay grounded. You don't need their approval to stay centered. You don't need their validation to stay whole. You have a choice, and that choice is your strength. Why you attach to people. Let's talk about why you attach in the first place. You attach because you want connection. You attach because you want belonging. You attach because you want to feel seen, valued, understood. These are human needs. There is nothing wrong with them. But attachment becomes dangerous when it becomes dependency. When you rely on someone else to feel worthy. When you rely on someone else to feel safe. When you rely on someone else to feel complete. That's not connection. That's captivity. And captivity is the opposite of detachment. The difference between connection and attachment. Connection is healthy. Attachment is heavy. Connection is mutual. Attachment is one-sided. Connection is empowering. Attachment is draining. Connection says, I choose you. Attachment says, I need you. Connection is freedom. Attachment is fear. You have a choice. You can choose connection, or you can cling through attachment. Only one leads to peace. REL World examples of healthy detachment. Let's make this real. 1. The caregiver who doesn't absorb pain. They show compassion. They show presence. They show support. But they don't drown in the emotions of others. They don't carry what isn't theirs. They don't lose themselves in someone else's suffering. That's detachment. Not coldness, clarity. 2. The leader who stays grounded. They listen. They guide. They support. But they don't crumble under pressure. They don't react emotionally to every crisis. They don't let other people's panic become their panic. That's detachment. Not distance discipline. 3. The partner who loves without losing themselves. They give. They care. They commit. But they don't sacrifice their identity. They don't abandon their boundaries. They don't rely on the relationship to feel whole. That's detachment. Not indifference, integrity. You have a choice. And that choice is your power. The danger of emotional absorption. You've been absorbing too much. Absorbing people's moods. Absorbing people's expectations. Absorbing people's problems. You think it makes you supportive. You think it makes you loyal. You think it makes you strong. But here's the truth. Absorbing emotions is not empathy. Absorbing emotions is self-destruction. You can care without carrying. You can support without sinking. You can love without losing yourself. That's detachment. That's emotional maturity. That's strength. Detachment creates better relationships. People think detachment ruins relationships. But the opposite is true. Detachment strengthens relationships. Because detachment removes desperation. Detachment removes fear. Detachment removes emotional chaos. When you're detached, you communicate clearly. You set boundaries confidently. You love freely, not fearfully. You stop clinging. You stop controlling. You stop suffocating the connection. Detachment creates space, and space creates respect. You don't need their permission to create that space. You don't need their approval to protect your peace. You don't need their validation to stay grounded. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. What you must let go of. Let's get specific. 1. Let go of the need to be needed. You are not someone's emotional crutch. You are not someone's savior. You are not responsible for fixing anyone. 2. Let go of the fear of disappointing people. You cannot live your life trying to manage other people's reactions. You cannot sacrifice your peace to protect their comfort. You cannot shrink yourself to keep others happy. 3. Let go of emotional dependency. Your worth is not determined by who stays. Your identity is not determined by who approves. Your peace is not determined by who validates you. 4. Let go of the belief that love requires suffering. Love is not sacrifice. Love is not self-abandonment. Love is not attachment. Love is presence. Love is clarity. Love is freedom. You have a choice. And that choice is your liberation. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. 1. Create emotional boundaries. Not walls, boundaries. Boundaries protect connection. Boundaries protect peace. Boundaries protect you. 2. Practice observing, not absorbing. When someone is emotional, don't absorb it. Watch it. Understand it. Respond to it without becoming it. 3. Stay connected without clinging. Show up, be present, care deeply, but hold lightly. 4. Build internal stability. Your peace must come from within. Your identity must come from within. Your strength must come from within. 5. Remind yourself daily. Detach from people, not humanity. That's the key. The truth you must accept. You don't have to disconnect from the world to protect your peace. You don't have to shut people out to stay grounded. You don't have to become cold to become strong. You just have to stop clinging. You just have to stop absorbing. You just have to stop depending on others for your emotional stability. Detachment is not isolation. Detachment is independence. Detachment is clarity. Detachment is power. You master the art of healthy connection. Now it's time to master the mindset that wins under pressure. Chapter 9, The Calm Mind Wins. In every high-pressure moment, in every crisis, in every turning point of your life, one truth decides whether you rise or collapse. The calm mind wins. Not the fastest mind, not the loudest mind, not the most emotional mind. The calm mind. You have a choice. You can let chaos control you, or you can learn to control yourself. That's the key. Calm is not passive. Calm is power. Most people misunderstand calm. They think calm means doing nothing. They think calm means being passive. They think calm means being detached from reality. But calm is not inaction. Calm is not weakness. Calm is not surrender. Calm is control. Calm is clarity. Calm is command over your internal world. The calm mind sees what the chaotic mind misses. The calm mind chooses what the reactive mind avoids. The calm mind acts while the emotional mind spirals. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their approval to stay grounded. You don't need their validation to stay centered. You have a choice, and that choice is your strength. Why calm wins under pressure? Pressure exposes people. Pressure reveals who is prepared and who is pretending. Pressure separates those who react from those who respond. When you're calm, you think clearly. When you're calm, you make better decisions. When you're calm, you see the situation for what it is, not what your fear imagines it to be. Calm is a competitive advantage. Calm is a leadership advantage. Calm is a life advantage. Because calm gives you something chaos never will: options. Chaos narrows your vision. Calm expands it. Chaos makes you desperate. Calm makes you deliberate. Chaos makes you cling. Calm helps you detach. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. The science of calm. Let's break this down. When you're stressed, your brain goes into survival mode. Your thinking narrows. Your judgment weakens. Your emotional reactions intensify. You stop seeing possibilities. You stop seeing solutions. You stop seeing clearly. But when you're calm, your brain shifts into clarity mode. You access logic. You access creativity. You access strategy. Calm is not just a feeling. Calm is a neurological advantage. That's why the calm mind wins. REL World examples of calm under pressure. Let's make this real. 1. The pilot in turbulence. When the plane shakes, the passengers panic. But the pilot stays calm. They follow procedure. They trust their training. They make decisions from clarity, not fear. That's why the plane lands safely. 2. The chess master in a losing position. They don't panic. They don't rush. They don't collapse. They breathe. They analyze. They find the move everyone else missed. That's why they win. 3. The first responder in crisis. They don't scream. They don't freeze. They don't overreact. They stay steady. They stay focused. They stay calm. That's why lives are saved. You have a choice. You can panic like the crowd, or you can stay calm like the leader. Why you lose your calm? Let's talk about why you lose your calm so easily. You lose your calm because you're attached to outcomes. You lose your calm because you're afraid of losing control. You lose your calm because you're carrying emotional clutter. You lose your calm because your ego is in the driver's seat. Every chapter before this one has been preparing you for this moment. Because calm is a result of detachment. Calm is the result of clarity. Calm is a result of discipline. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. That's the key. The habits that create a calm mind. Calm is not something you feel. Calm is something you practice. Let's get practical. 1. Slow your breath. Your breath is a remote control for your nervous system. Slow breath equals slow mind. Fast breath equals fast panic. 2. Pause before reacting. The pause is your power. The pause is your clarity. The pause is the difference between reacting emotionally and responding intelligently. 3. Reduce emotional clutter. You cannot stay calm if you're carrying too much. You cannot stay calm if you're absorbing everyone's emotions. You cannot stay calm if your mind is overloaded. Carry less. Feel more. See clearly. 4. Release the outcome. You don't control timing. You don't control results. You don't control other people. You control your process. You control your effort. You control your discipline. 5. Strengthen your internal boundaries. Not every emotion deserves your attention. Not every problem deserves your energy. Not every situation deserves your reaction. You have a choice, and that choice is your freedom. The calm mind in relationships. Calm changes how you communicate. Calm changes how you argue. Calm changes how you connect. When you're calm, you don't take everything personally. When you're calm, you don't escalate conflict. When you're calm, you don't cling to emotional chaos. You listen. You understand. You respond with intention. Calm is not distance. Calm is maturity. The calm mind in decision-making. Every major decision in your life should come from calm, not fear. Fear makes you rush. Fear makes you cling. Fear makes you choose the familiar instead of the right. Calm gives you perspective. Calm gives you patience. Calm gives you power. The calm mind wins because the calm mind sees the whole board. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. 1. Identify what triggers your chaos. A person, a situation, a fear, a memory. Name it, because what you don't name, you can't control. 2. Build a calm ritual, a breath pattern, a grounding phrase, a mental reset. Use it every time you feel yourself spiraling. 3. Practice calm in low-pressure moments. If you can't stay calm in small moments, you won't stay calm in big ones. 4. Protect your peace like it's oxygen, because it is. Your peace is your power. Your peace is your clarity. Your peace is your leverage. 5. Remind yourself daily. The calm mind wins. That's the key. The truth you must accept. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be the most talented. You just need to be the calmest. Calm is your advantage. Calm is your leverage. Calm is your superpower. You mastered the calm mind. Now it's time to learn how to live unattached. Every day, in every moment, in every decision. Chapter 10. Live unattached. Freedom is a daily practice. Detachment is not a moment. Detachment is not a breakthrough. Detachment is not a single decision you make once and never revisit. Detachment is a daily practice, a discipline, a way of living. You don't master detachment in theory. You master detachment in the small choices you make every day. You master detachment in the moments no one sees. You master detachment in the decisions that seem insignificant but shape everything. You have a choice. Every day, you have a choice. And that choice determines your freedom. That's the key. Detachment is a lifestyle, not a lesson. You've learned the principles. You've learned the psychology. You've learned the strategies. But none of it matters unless you live it, unless you practice it, unless you embody it. Detachment is not something you know. Detachment is something you do. You don't need their permission to live unattached. You don't need their approval to protect your peace. You don't need their validation to choose clarity. You have a choice, and that choice is your power. The daily habits of an unattached mind. Let's break this down. Let's make this real. Let's make this practical. Living unattached requires daily habits. Small, repeatable actions that reinforce your clarity and protect your peace. 1. Start the day with internal alignment. Before you check your phone, before you check your messages, before you check the world, check yourself. Ask, what do I need today? What do I choose today? What do I refuse to carry today? This is how you reclaim your mind before the world tries to claim it for you. 2. Practice emotional neutrality. Not coldness, not indifference. Neutrality. When something happens, don't react instantly. Pause. Observe. Detach. Ask, is this mine to carry? Is this worth my peace? Is this worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. 3. Release expectations. Keep standards. Expectations create attachment. Standards create clarity. Expectations say, they should act this way. Standards say, this is how I act regardless. Expectations create disappointment. Standards create discipline. Expectations cling. Standards guide. You have a choice. Choose standards. 4. Build micro moments of letting go. Let go of the small things. Let go of the petty things. Let go of the imagined slights. Let go of the need to win every argument. Let go of the need to control every detail. Every small release strengthens the muscle for the big releases. 5. End the day with emotional clearing. Don't carry today into tomorrow. Don't carry old emotions into new decisions. Don't carry yesterday's weight into your future. Ask yourself, what did I hold today that I should have released? What drained me? What strengthened me? What can I let go of right now? This is how you stay light. This is how you stay clear. This is how you stay free. The freedom of living unattached. When you live unattached, something powerful happens. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. You stop clinging. You start choosing. You start acting. You start leading. You become grounded. You become calm. You become intentional. You stop living from fear. You stop living from ego. You stop living from emotional chaos. You start living from clarity. You start living from discipline. You start living from truth. You don't need their permission to live this way. You don't need their approval to evolve. You don't need their validation to stay free. You have a choice, and that choice is your liberation. REL World examples of living unattached. Let's make this real. 1. The professional who doesn't fear losing opportunities. They don't cling to jobs. They don't cling to titles. They don't cling to outcomes. They focus on excellence. They focus on discipline. They focus on growth. Opportunities come to them because they're not desperate for them. 2. The partner who loves without losing themselves. They give freely. They love deeply. They show up fully. But they don't collapse into the relationship. They don't abandon their identity. They don't cling out of fear. Their love is stronger because it's not rooted in desperation. 3. The creator who doesn't fear judgment. They create boldly. They express freely. They innovate consistently because they're not attached to applause. They're not attached to validation. They're not attached to perfection. Their creativity thrives because their ego doesn't suffocate it. These people aren't special. They're simply unattached, and you can live the same way. The mindset of daily detachment. Living unattached requires a mindset shift, a new internal operating system. 1. I choose clarity over chaos. Chaos is addictive. Drama is addictive. Attachment is addictive. But clarity is freedom. 2. I control my effort, not the outcome. This is a foundation of peace. This is a foundation of power. This is a foundation of detachment. 3. I don't cling, I choose. Clinging is fear. Choosing is strength. 4. I release what isn't mine. Other people's emotions. Other people's expectations. Other people's judgments. Not yours. Never yours. 5. My peace is non-negotiable. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Always, you have a choice, and that choice is your power. What you must do now. Let's get practical again. 1. Build a daily detachment ritual. Morning clarity. Midday pause. Evening release. 2. Audit your emotional load weekly. What are you carrying? What can you release? What needs boundaries? What needs distance? 3. Practice non-attachment in conversations. Listen without absorbing. Respond without reacting. Care without clinging. 4. Protect your peace ruthlessly. Say no. Step back. Walk away. Choose yourself. 5. Remind yourself daily. Freedom is a practice. Detachment is a discipline. Peace is a choice. That's the key. The truth you must accept. Living unattached is not a destination. Living unattached is a lifestyle. Living unattached is a commitment you renew every day. You don't rise by gripping tighter. You rise by letting go. You rise by choosing clarity. You rise by choosing discipline. You rise by choosing peace. You master the daily practice of detachment. Now it's time to bring everything together. Every lesson, every shift, every breakthrough. Let's close this audiobook with power. The final closing challenge awaits. You came into this audiobook gripping too tightly. Gripping people, gripping outcomes, gripping fears that were never yours to carry. And now you know the truth. The tighter you hold, the more you lose. The moment you release, you rise. Detachment is not withdrawal. Detachment is power. Detachment is clarity. Detachment is a discipline to act without fear, to love without losing yourself, to pursue without desperation, and to walk away without collapsing. You win when you stop forcing. You win when you stop chasing. You win when you stop clinging to what's already slipping away. So here is your challenge. Starting today, release one thing you've been gripping too tightly. One fear, one expectation, one attachment. Let it go, and watch how fast your life expands. Your power begins the moment your grip ends.